What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, The World of I, who is I, me, Leon, just here sharing my liberty and self-discovery journey with others through travel, spirituality, mindset, and much more. Now, if you watched my most recent upload, which I did about a month ago, where I spoke about getting out of your comfort zone, and by taking my own advice, I planned a 3-month backpacking journey throughout Europe. I'm about a month into that journey, and I am currently in Prague, which is in Czech Republic on the eastern side of Europe. I've already gone to cities such as London, Paris, Madrid, Barcelona, Cinque Terre, Florence, Rome, Venice, which is in Italy, and then Munich, and then I'll be in Prague for the next 2 months, and I'm gonna bounce around to some other cities and countries meanwhile I'm here in Prague. But being in Prague will give me an opportunity to finally edit all my vlog footage, edit photos, write blog posts, and things of that nature. And if you want to stay tuned to all that, you want to hit the subscribe button here to catch my vlogs of my travels here. And then if you want to see pictures, because pictures are worth 1,000 words, you want to follow me on Instagram. And if you want to read and look at my blog posts to get a little bit more of a story behind some of the pictures and some other things of that nature, you definitely want to follow the Facebook page, and the link to the Instagram and Facebook page are in the descriptions below, so you definitely want to follow and stay tuned to those as well. Now, I know it's been a while since I posted anything. It's been about a month since I posted my last video, and I have yet to have time, as I said, to edit all my vlog footage to upload. And also, meanwhile I'm here in Prague, I will do some more grassroots videos where I kind of maybe explain how I put together this trip, maybe explain how to backpack and hostels and things of that nature for those that are possibly interested in one day doing their own little backpacking journey. But until I can get all that edited and done and uploaded, I wanted to upload something that I did right before I left, and that was I interviewed my grandfather. Now, who is my grandfather? My grandfather is Reverend Leon White. He is a pastor, a leader in his community, a civil rights leader in his day, and many more. A very wise, complex individual. So I thought it'd be interesting to interview him, because within his mind is just so much history, and he's based out of North Carolina, where my family is from. And in this interview, we talked about things from his own family and personal history and life story, about near-death experience when he had when he was younger, him joining the Navy, him getting into civil rights, him the first time ever seeing Martin Luther King speak live in person, his thoughts on Malcolm X, the assassination of John F. Kennedy. We talked about things such as spirituality, religion, things that kind of coincide with some of the topics on my YouTube channel. Got a lot of his opinion on who's God, what's the devil. Yeah, we spoke about just so many things, and even I got his opinion on some of the current problems and things that are going on right now in today's time. And I definitely urge all you all to definitely sit down and talk to your grandparents, maybe even interview them yourselves, because there's so much history that they see. Now, my grandfather's 86, so as you can imagine, he has a lot to talk about. He even actually worked with Dick Gregory in a civil rights case as well here in North Carolina. And so yeah, I definitely would urge you guys to interview and talk to your grandparents. And if you're somebody that maybe you already interviewed or spoke to your grandparents, definitely in the description or in the comment section below, leave a short story or something that you learned about your grandparents that you thought was just really interesting, as I did in this interview. Now, like I said, 86, so the interview is about 3 hours long, so I broke it up into 3 parts that I will upload. This part today is Monday, but the part 2 and part 3 I'll upload every Sunday. Here I'll probably upload it afternoon time here, which will be early morning back home if you're in the Eastern time zone. And hopefully you guys can take something from this interview. It's been a highly kind of requested thing among my family and other people in the community who know about him, and I definitely urge you, if anything, just turn it on and have your earbuds in and just listen to it as if it was a podcast, because we definitely talked about some very interesting and deep conversation. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and like always, subscribe, like, and stay tuned if you're interested in seeing any of my vlog posts for my travels, and definitely Instagram and Facebook as well if you want to get content there of my travels and what's going on with me. So hope you guys enjoy this interview, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace. So your name is Leon White. You don't have a middle name?
I do not have a middle name.
No.
But my first name was, believe it or not, was William Henry White.
Oh, really?
And I did not change it until I got ready. I didn't change it on the birth certificate until I got ready to join the Navy. So I changed that to Leon White.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why Leon H keep popping up, which was Henry.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of email and things of that come in. They say Leon H White. I don't know where he got it from, but they got it.
And so you are a teacher, social worker, civil rights leader, and also a pastor. But to me, you're known as Papa because you're my grandfather, and I also have your name as well. My name is also Leon. Do you know where you got the idea to name yourself Leon, or where that name came about?
No, I don't know. I really don't know. But Leon is the name of a national explorer, isn't it, from Spain or somewhere?
Yeah.
And how I end up with that, I don't know, because my first name was Leon. No, it was William Henry White.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a bad name when I look back and look at it.
Yeah.
And Henry came from one of my uncles. No, they were one of Daddy's first cousins. So, I can't keep them uncles and cousins. They all the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, where were you born at?
I was born in a place called the Dykins. Mm-hmm. The Dykins was located 5 miles northwest of in Franklin County from Lewisburg, North Carolina. I was always very proud of that. Lewis, Louis, Burg, B-U-R-G, North Carolina, I reckon. But I don't know what the history of that, but I know there is a Confederate statue. I reckon it's Confederate. It's a statue, so I'm sure it is a Confederate statue there in Lewisburg. Mm-hmm. And we used to have a joke. I don't know why we told it or not, that there was nobody ever there to take him down so he could, so the statue could go to the bathroom. It's still there.
Yeah.
Near Lewisburg College. It's a Methodist school. It was at one time.
Okay.
I don't know what it is now.
Okay. And for your life's work, you decided to be a pastor, correct?
Well, folk don't say decide, they say your calling. And my calling is not looking up in the sky and hearing the voice say, go preach, or seeing it. But I was a 4-H club scout. I'm going to use a member. And the 4-H club in those days, we would go to Greensboro, A&T College, for a week for training. So I had the opportunity to go there. And while I was there, going to chapel. Chapel was, a long time ago, a very integral part, the central part of young people training. Where you at Augusta, St. Augustine College, or at Shaw, wherever, even at North Carolina Central, chapel was required. And what you mean by chapel, this was a religious service, but often the person that had the opportunity to speak did not have to be a pastor. It may be a leader, maybe a politician, or whatever. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And so you were born on February 14th, 1932. You're kind of born, 1932 is the middle of the Great Depression. And I read that your mother and father was tight on money, that when your mother was going into labor with you, they had to go to a midwife, where back then it cost $5 to give birth. But your father didn't have enough money, so he had to repay his debt to the midwife husband by plowing his field. So what was it like? What was your childhood like in terms of growing up?
Let's tell you about my daddy. The midwife that delivered me, husband, had a small farm. Mm-hmm. So he had a plow, mm-hmm. no such thing as tractors, a plow, and a mule. Mm-hmm. So Daddy had to, I was born in February, but apparently about March they started breaking up land because there were no tractors. And so Daddy would plow the mule, and the owner of the mule and land would tell Daddy, Jimmy, take that plow out of the ground because it's too hard on the mule. But Daddy had it stuck down in the ground because he didn't have to walk as fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, so in terms of growing up as a child, some of your early childhood years, was it rough kind of growing up after? Because I think the Great Depression ended.
My childhood was very joyful. Mm-hmm. First of all, Grandpa family owned some land, but they lost it. Went all the way up to that what we call 401 highway. Mm-hmm. But one of his sisters refused to sign. Somebody in the family borrowed some money, and which was white, and they wanted to take all the land, but Grandpa's sister refused. Grandpa's sister refused to sign, so they ended up with 14 acres of land. And it changed hands recently, really, but we still claim it. The school was there, a one-room schoolhouse, which later was turned into two-room schoolhouse. Very, very interesting. Now, how in the world that a woman that in her 60s go on to teach somebody to read and write with 60 children in a one-room schoolhouse? It was not possible. So I learned when I discovered, before I went in the Navy, that I did not have the reading skills that I needed. Uh-huh. I got the News and Observer paper. And what's interesting about newspaper, it's not an intellectual document. It's a newspaper for the masses of the people to read. So if you have a 4th, 5th, or 6th grade education, you should be able to read not any, but any good newspaper, mm-hmm. which if you kept, and that's your mother, Cleve, never would read the newspaper when they first come out. She'd stack them up, and then 3 or 4 months later, she'd go back and read all the newspapers.
So as a child, reading the newspaper helped you learn how to read?
Not as a child, mm-hmm. but as a teenager.
As a teenager.
The News and Observer taught me how to read sufficiently enough that I was able to pass the examination to go into to go into the Navy. I went off to college, and the first day or two I got there, I discovered that I wasn't ready for college, so I left. I did it twice, so I left. But it was a good experience, and the thing about it was I wrote a paper while I was there that the English teacher read, and she was very much impressed with it. Mm-hmm. So I must have been better than I thought I was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll ask you more about your educational career. So your father, Jamie Walker White, and your mother, Susie Palmer White, your father was 23 when you were born, and your mother was 17. Tell me a little bit about your parents.
Well, I don't think it was unusual for young people to get married at an early age in those days. First of all, it wasn't too popular for young girls to be mothers be bringing babies into the world when they were not married. That was not, our church tolerated it. We put up with it. But a lot of churches would put girls out of church, and they had to come back 6 months later and ask to be reinstated. But Saints of Light Church never did do that. We always had, we was on the liberal side of God's grace and love and mercy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So your father, tell me a little bit about his personality.
Well, I was coming up, I was closer to my uncle than I was to my daddy. Because my uncle was single. He didn't get married until he got about 30 years old. And he loved to make toys. And like skateboards and things like that. Mm-hmm. So naturally we were attracted to him because he know there wasn't such thing as we have any toys except for Christmas. And if we were not very careful, those toys were not working by the time the sun went down.
Yeah.
it was a one-day event. Happy. We stayed but we always stayed with good, I'm not even going to put it in parentheses, but good white folk who had something. Mm-hmm. We didn't have much respect for poor white folk because they were struggling just like we were. There's no way they could help us.
Yeah.
And they didn't want us to help them, except to help mama clean their house.
Yeah.
We had chopped that cotton. You know what chopping cotton is? A long time ago, they would run a row of cotton down, and then you had to go back and thin it out. It's not like it is now.
Yeah. And
sometimes grass would get there, and we got to pull the grass up, chop, get rid of the excess amount of cotton, and then sometimes it would fall over, and we had to take time to put soil around the cotton. Mm-hmm. And I remember we did it once it wasn't our cotton, it was always better, because if you raise cotton, everything was on half. So if you raise cotton was not a crop that you could make anything if you had to raise on half, because you had to pick it, and when it went to the gin, what you got back was half of the money. So it was nothing left. It was a waste of time.
Yeah.
Tobacco was different.
Yeah.
Tobacco has always been a money crop. And tobacco became such a money crop that the landowners no longer wanted sharecroppers. They hired laborers to do the money crop, because tobacco became very tobacco became a very luxury,
like a cash crop.
A very good cash crop, yeah. Mm-hmm. In the end of the year, you had some money left when you sold the tobacco.
Yeah.
A lot of times when everything was sold, there wasn't no money left. I remember one time, Daddy ended up clearing $6. So he was in debt before January came around to start another year.
Yeah. Now, speaking of white people, your mother, to my understanding, my great-grandmother, she was biracial. She was half white.
It's very interesting that you use that word biracial, because when we were coming up, there wasn't no such word as being biracial.
What is the word?
You usually had a white dad and a black mama.
Yeah. Did y'all have any connections to
To the mama, to the
Father.
daddy.
Yeah.
Absolutely none. My mother did not know her daddy. I don't know whether personally she ever met him or not. But there were two persons that told Mama about her daddy. One was a daddy cousin called Edward Clifton. He told Mama that he knew her daddy. The other one was Thomas Carter's wife, who told Mama that she knew her daddy. And now I'm trying. He was Weldon, W-E-L-D-O-N. I don't know where he came from. But I searched all over that area trying to find a cemetery where there was a Weldon. So I finally found one on Epsom, the small town out of Henderson, going to Lynchburg, 39 going south. And I found a Weldon name out there. So I assumed one way or another that he was either my Mama's daddy or either uncle or something. Yeah. Weldon.
Did you happen to know any of your grandparents?
Oh yeah, Charlie. I one of them was named Charlie White. And what's interesting, one side of my family was had a little education coming out of Johnson C. Smith. So apparently up there in Charlotte, Charlie was not a real name. That's like his name was Charles. and so there wasn't such name as Charlie.
Yeah.
But we found out later Charlie was a very popular name.
Yeah.
Like one of the radio or television announcer, broadcaster, personality came out of Henderson. His name was Charlie.
Okay. Now, you're the third of 9 children. Tell me a little bit about the relationship you had with your siblings growing up.
Very well. Constance and Charles and I, there were 3 of us. Charles died at age 77, so that wasn't a great loss to us. I don't say great loss. It probably was greater than we had anticipated because he was the oldest boy. And I had a sister who is still living. Constance is her name, Constance Marie. Mama's name was Susie Annie Candy. Susie Annie Candy Ruby May Palmer White. What about that name was very poetic when you think about it. But that's somebody named her Susie Annie Candy Ruby May White. She was a darling child, very pretty, not straight hair, but curly hair. You know, it's hard to get that curly hair, but Mama had curly hair. White folk, most of them have straight hair, but Mama had the right texture, and so she never really required in a hot iron to straighten it or nothing like that. She had curly hair. Not extremely long, but curly. She was a beautiful woman because you see a picture.
Yeah, I have many pictures of her, and I still remember when she was alive. She used to call me her baby doll.
Okay. Well, she was a charmer. She knew how to reach out. Now you just remind me of that. But Mama knew how to get close to people, and this is the first time I thought about that. That wasn't fully connected. If you were not fully connected, whether male, female, cousin, or whatever, she would always reach out and make you a part of her being. And I reckon that was necessary because her father was Caucasian. They say he was white. I looked at his history. I have a tendency to believe that he had some black blood in him. That's why he navigated towards black women. You know, a lot of white men love black women.
Yeah.
They marry white women, but they love black women.
Yeah. Now on March 4th, 1946, when you were 14, kind of had a near-death experience when a bus with your sister Constance and your brothers Charles flipped over into a lake, and this left you with a broken leg and a broken arm. From your perspective, tell me a little bit about what happened.
That was, I can't call the name of the creek now, but it wasn't a lake, it was a creek.
It was a creek.
It was a creek. And the creek wasn't that wide because the bus, somebody was driving the bus that wasn't supposed to be driving it. And the bus driver let him drive the bus because he was sitting back there with the girls. Mm-hmm. And so when he went around that curve, the bus started to sway left, right, and hit the rail and fell over in the creek. I say creek, yeah, I think it is a creek. But it wasn't a pond, it was a creek. But I thought it was a pond because we lived there years before that near a pond place called Clifton Pond. Mm-hmm. It had a big pond and a small pond, and it had a meal, yeah. Ground flour and corn, but they mostly ground cornmeal. Mm-hmm. I don't ever think they got into wheat too much. But we lived, 5-minute walks away from that mill and from those two dams. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I remember was there was a constant roaring of the water.
Coming into the bus?
No. When I was at the house, mm-hmm. The water coming over those dams, yeah. It stayed day in and day out, yeah.
And when the bus flipped over into the creek, did water start to...
Yeah, trickle in, and I honestly thought it wasn't really maybe 20, 30 wide creek, not a lot of water in it, but it was enough for the bus, when it landed, to fall on the upper end. Part of the bus was emerged at the creek, and the other part was up there on land. Uh-huh. You see, but I didn't know that because when it hit, I didn't know where I was. I really, since come back to Clifton Pond, I really thought it was Clifton Pond. It was a creek. It's not a branch, it was a creek. But it was enough to cover my face. But my sister and my brother was not trapped like I was, so they came back and lifted my head up above the water. Mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm definitely glad that they were able to save you.
Yeah,
if
because
not,
otherwise you may not.
Yeah, me or you wouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's right.
So did that event change the perspective or outlook on your life at 14?
I really don't know the impact that it made on my life, but I can remember when I was in that water, probably half immersed, probably half covered, that I could visualize my whole life before and after, including, and this is extreme, well, I made up later or not, but I immersed it in. Mom and Dad know I'm going to my funeral. See, it was really a big flash of consciousness that I experienced. And what's so real about it, white folk in those days were super racist. But events would make them overcome their prejudice and racism. So I was probably the first person that ever in that day rode on a white hearse. We call them ambulance or hearses, whatever they were, because they didn't separate ambulance from hearses in those days. And so the tragic event that happened, racism was overcome, and black and white worked together. And they carried me to Rocky Mountain. That was a good ride in the hearse. I had never rode anything that was so soft. Yeah. And people were so nice. And I ended up in a hospital called Sanatorium. It's Parkview now because the two hospitals merged. Stayed there for 24 days. And there was always a nurse who was white. And there were no black nurses there. Who during the middle of the day when she was tired and wanted some rest, she was always come downstairs and sit beside my bed and read and everything. So I got a very favorable impression. When I got involved in civil rights, I talked about white folk. I told them white folk all that kind of stuff. But the fact was, the relationship that I had as a child, even though schools was segregated, the white people in that community after school was out, lived together and worked together because that's the only way they could survive. We didn't go to church together. And some of the best food I ever had in my life was at a place called Hill Ridge. That lady would cook. A lot of white folk won't like, she was when you worked for her, but she was a super cook, and she gave us the best of food. Yeah, and I was just love to go there and eat there. Yeah. On the porch. Yeah. We accepted segregation. See, we didn't. It was our way of life, so that's the only thing that we knew. Yeah. And I remember walking down the street in Raleigh one day, and that's after I left home. When you leave home and you have been nowhere else, you ain't gonna stay too long because you'll end up back home because that's the only thing you know. But I walked up and down those streets and people started talking about integration and segregation in certain parts of the world and the nation, and I could not see how that was possible. Segregation was not an evil. Segregation was not an evil thing to us, and I think white people discovered that because it helped black folk to get their act together, get their schools. All those schools came out of segregation, like Shaw, like Elizabeth City, like Winston-Salem, A&T. See, in Durham, Central, those schools would not have been there if it was not for segregation. That was North Carolina was they were racist, but I think somebody on the upper level of society realized that it was important for black people to have a good education as well. They just wanted to have it separate. Yeah. And let me tell this story since we're telling it. Daddy, Larry. Larry was the first person that in our family that went to an integrated school, which was Chapel Hill. And so Larry went up there to the landlord's house and told him he wanted a reference from him. And he said, look, I can't sign this one because I don't want you to be going to no white school because you're going to be looking at them white women. I'm not going to do that. Well, what's the funny thing about it, Larry did go to Chapel Hill, and there was a lot of white women there. And if this recorded, I don't know what his wife's name? See out here. Who? Larry, Rasa. Yeah. Rasa in those days were about. See, black folk don't know how to take care of their skin like they do now, but a black person who knows how to take care of their skin has very beautiful skin. See, but you with too much makeup and all that kind of stuff, and when nappy hair was not in, straighten it, trying to make it look white. So a lot of folk didn't do too good at it. Yeah. And Rosser then, but Larry saw something in that woman, and he was right. She was good for Larry. Still is.
Okay. Now, my great grandfather, which is your great grandfather, started a church by the name of Saints Delight United Church of Christ in Lewisburg, North Carolina. How was that church and that congregation played a role in your life?
Well, it was maybe except for that one room schoolhouse, that church was my life. the local black church in those days played probably still do a very significant role in the life of a child. And well, no church is perfect, but we were in the ruling class of the church, so they gave us a special feeling that church belonged to us.
Yeah.
And the other folk were just
Yeah. Did you happen to know your great grandfather's name? I know he
Charlie White. Yeah, Charlie White. I was close to my grandfather than I was to my daddy. I didn't really get close to my dad until I got grown.
Oh, okay.
Grandpa died in 1941, so I was 9 years old. That's the year I got baptized, and Charles got baptized. Charles was older, but I always tried to be the leader.
So, after high school, you went and joined the Navy. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, I joined the Navy because I don't talk about it too much, because we have a tendency to rationalize. The reason why I joined the Navy was I had a cousin named Randolph. Randolph went in the Navy and he became a steward. You know what a steward is? You know the history of cooks and waiting on the offer. Not necessarily to cook, but the stewards were those who waited on the officers in the Navy. And all the officers in the Navy were white, because there were no black officers. So, you know what, I want to say that. But they didn't even wear a uniform like Navy sailors wear, with the flaps and
hat.
Yeah, but they had a uniform that was closer to the officer's uniform, because they were not considered sailors; they were servants. And when I went in, because my cousin went in, he came back with that officer-looking uniform. I decided I want to go into the Navy.
Because you like the look of the uniform.
I didn't like the look of the uniform, and my vision of what a black person could do in the Navy had been blurred. So the most surprising thing to me, when I was shipped to Patuxent River, I was not transferred there to work in the kitchen or in the office, but to work in supply. I was surprised.
Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit about my grandmother, Cleo Caroline Evans, who was your first wife. Tell me a little bit about when you guys met, or what made you fall in love with her.
My stepfather-in-law introduced me to her at a church called Lausanne, and she, he had a daughter, but somehow or another his children didn't follow him, but his stepchild, which was Cleo, he would take care of Ann. So they went down, we had the children days and everything. That's another story they should write a book on. But when he went down there, he carried her with her, and he told me when she got on church ground, black folk have class too. He told her, don't bother with them, because they ain't the one. But he pointed me that I came from one of the good families. But because we were Christian, we won't. Yeah. Daddy may drink a little bit on Saturday night, but they won't party all night long.
Yeah. So I know that her father started a church called Evans Grove, where she's buried and my mother's buried. Did that background kind of help spur along the relationship, being that y'all both had a Christian background?
Yeah, her mother named Eva Bell. And when I went to her house, she first met her, and when I first got married, and I would call her Miss Bell, and she said, "Don't call me Bell, call me Mother." So she overcome. And Evelma, Cleo was teaching in the Eastern Shore. And so I stayed at her house and went to Master of Divinity school. And so Mother and I became very close. We were very, very close. She died young, extremely young, under 65. She may be 62 or 3 years old when she passed.
I believe she was in her late 50s.
Could have been Eva Bell.
Oh, no. My grandma or her mother?
Your grandma is Cleo, right?
Yeah.
Your great-grandmother.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure when she passed.
She about 62 or 3 years old. She may be a little longer than her daughter did.
I believe so. Based on when I looked at.
She came up with a condition that most folks still don't know about called scleroderma. You survive it fairly well if it doesn't go inside. But hers went inside. It called the hardening of the arteries and I never said this before because I never really thought about it before. Her life was fulfilled. See, some people live to get 85 and their lives are not fulfilled. But her mother, your grandmother's life was fulfilled before she was 60. Right? Cup runneth over. She had so much to give. 2 or 3 years after she had retired from school, and this sounds so whitish and racist, but I'm going to say it anyway. But it's amazing how many of her former students came to her funeral. And she hadn't taught them for several years.
The white ones or the black ones?
The white ones. Maybe some black ones. But I don't remember them, but I remember all those white folk coming to the funeral. Yeah, they loved her. Okay. The upper class white people truly loved her because she could manage their children better than they could. Doctor and lawyers couldn't manage their children, but they wouldn't pay their parents in the mind or do what they want to, but they would respect their teacher and loved her. And a lot of them came to her funeral. A lot of them.
Now, when I was reading about you guys' relationship and the birth of your first child, my father, Leon Clay White, you weren't able to attend the birth of my father. How did that affect you to not be there?
None at all. That wasn't unusual. See now, the husband is usually in the room or outside the room when the child is born. But in those days, that birthing of the children were a women thing. See, you weren't in the room. And I had no idea that Cleo was about to have Clay. And I believe it was on a Saturday night. I don't know why. It could have been on this. What date is his birthday?
I believe it's January 6th.
Yeah, it was a Saturday night. But it could have been Sunday morning too. If it were past 12, then it was Sunday morning. But I was down in New Bern then at a
sermon.
Huh?
You were giving a sermon?
Yeah, I was supposed to be giving a sermon. And I stayed there until this service was over. Now these days I want to stay there. You see, because Father was not that much intricately involved in the birth of a child. That was the housewife. They called them housewives, but they were really nurses that delivered those children. They were probably better than doctors were.
Yeah. Now, I've been finding a couple of videos of you and my grandma, specifically my parents' wedding. And I noticed that she kind of fit in with your lifestyle and your purpose that you had in ministry. So did you feel like she was very fitting for what type of work
because
you
first of all, she she was a daughter of a minister, and her mother taught her. Her mother Eva Bell would call her daddy Mr. Evans, even though he was a preacher, but they didn't call him Willie, unless maybe she was mad with him or something like that. But she always respected him as Mr. Evans, because when he went out into the white folk world, he was a mister. But at home and in the family, and in their family in their church, he was Mr. So the women always built up their husband.
So you feel like she was fitting because she came from a family of ministry as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. She was trained for the position without a doubt.
So what advice would you give on finding a partner in terms of for a relationship?
Only by the grace of God you find the right one. It ain't that easy.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to talk about your education. So you got a bachelor's in science degree in elementary education at Elizabeth City State. What made you decide to become a teacher or get a degree in teaching?
I didn't. Because first of all, and I don't talk about this too much, Constance, my older sister, and I never heard of them missionary, went to Central University, right out of a rural community. And I don't know whether she partnered too much or whatever it was, but she was not able to go back there the next year. So somebody recommended to her, a lady by the name of Susie Woodard, told her to go down to Elizabeth City. That was the best decision she ever made. Not only for her, but for me too, because she did very well there. And I was in the Navy. I remember traveling from Patuxent River, Maryland, down to, no. I came down for her graduation, and Mama and Dad and I, the three of us I remember, went to Constance graduation, but we got lost, so we missed the morning service. Then we have a baccalaureate service and a graduation service on the same day. But we got there for the graduation service, so everybody was happy.
Yeah. So you kind of decided to take on teaching, kind of following along your sister Constance.
That's right. Not really teaching, I was just going
to school. It just happened that you had a degree in teaching.
I got a degree in teaching, and while I was in seminary, my second year in seminary at Master of Divinity School, my daddy, he associated with somebody, Frazier, who was part of education, and so he got me a job, and I didn't know how to say no.
Yeah. So
I came out of seminary for 5 years and taught school, which, if I look back over it, I never reflected on it as I am reflecting on it now. That probably was a good thing, because that was my training experience to be a teacher, and no pastor can be a good pastor unless they're a good teacher, know how to work with children, know how to work with families. See, it's more than being in pulpit. Every church, in reality, is a sacred school. More people learn more in church than they do in the academic school.
So you're saying you're teaching.
May I say this? And this is just a reflection. If you go to Oak Level, you will discover that lay people get up and read the scripture. 3, we follow the lectionary, international lectionary, including UCC use it. And I want to say it, but when they first, it's amazing as I reflect on it, and most of them would not remember it now. But when those adults would get up to read the scripture, they really couldn't do it very well. But over the years, they became very, very professional. Lay people reading scripture on Sunday morning. And I don't know how many black churches that
do that.
That's right, that people get up and read the scripture. But if you don't read it over the week, at least if you follow the lectionary, in 3 years' time, you go through the central parts of the Bible 3 years, every 3 years. And the books up there
Yeah.
are the books.
Yeah, I see the 3 books there. So you saying allowing people to read the scripture kind of help them with their public speaking skills?
Public speaking, definitely so. Their public reading skills. And I can say that probably more than that. It probably helped them with their silent reading skills. Because some folk graduate from high school can't read. Did you know that?
Yeah. I don't think that happens as often
As it used to.
Yeah, as it used to, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that folk finished high school didn't know how to read.
So as a teacher, just my own personal experiences with teachers, I noticed when I was in grade school, and I'm only 25, born in 1993. In my time of teaching, there weren't too many African American male teachers. So I was wondering, during times of segregation, I assumed that most of the teachers in colored-only schools were black, correct?
That's right. That's right. But you had a lot of male teachers.
Yeah. So with integration, do you think that cut back on a lot of African American teachers even plays a role in today with there not being so many African American teachers, especially African American male teachers?
Well, first of all, African American teachers are respected by the community. And now we live in a time now when no teachers are really, truly, is an integral part of the black community. I don't know about the white community because I'm not there. But every black teacher, according to a lot of these principles, they were required to go to a church, visit those churches in the communities in which they work. That's no longer a requirement.
So it helped them have so you're saying it helped the black community have a little bit more respect for their teachers because they dealt with them outside of the school system.
That's right. They probably helped train them too.
Now,
education is more than reading a book. I don't know why I thought about that. Education is more than reading the book. I sat down on the floor before I went into the Navy, and that's another story. When I went into the Navy, before I went into the Navy, in the summertime, laying down on the floor just like that, I would read. That's when I started really truly learning how to read. I went through high school. I knew how to. Well, I could read, but not orally. I could look at a book and read it, but I couldn't pronounce the word.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I knew what the words meant, but I couldn't pronounce the
pronounce how to say them.
Sound.
So I know you touched on it a little bit before, but I remember recently me and you went to go have dinner, and you said that you think integration in some cases hurt black people more. Why do you think that?
Because except for the church, and I'm trying to think like, except for the church. If it had not been for the church, when integration occurred, the black race, with a sense of pride, a sense of solidarity, would have been a truly oppressed people. But you can't oppress black folk so much because we have a church. See, our sense of worth and our sense of being does not come from the schoolhouse, but it comes from the church house.
So do you feel like, do you think the church is still highly respected in today's black community?
Oh yes. Because I'm a pastor, been one for how many years? 50 plus years, 53, 4 years. Because I was pastoring since 1956, so you can put that in perspective. How many years would that be?
Quite a lot. I believe the last pastoral anniversary you did was your 50th, and that was
7 years ago.
Yeah, so you've been quite some time. Just to speak about it, since we're already talking about ministry, I guess I'll go into that. What defining moment did you know that ministry would be your life's work?
Well, I don't know it's going to be my life work because even your biggest dream is a small dream because you can't dream bigger than you are. My second wife one time made a remark that I hadn't pastored the biggest churches. You know, I'm out here, Oak Level, in the United Church of Christ, and in the Southern Conference. Is a very outstanding church because we had 400, 500, 600, 700 members. That was a large church. But in terms of cities where they have thousands of members, and the pastors don't hardly know any of them.
Like one of those mega churches.
Mega churches, yeah.
I think when my mom used to go to church, we went to one in Raleigh called Elevation. It was one of them churches that when you got inside, it felt like a stadium.
Yeah, but it wasn't always that way. I remember when Elevation wasn't as large as the Level Church was.
Yeah, they still have the older building, which is smaller. It's on New Bern Avenue.
Yeah.
But I don't think they use it that often anymore.
What the Jews use it? Or?
I don't know. I mean,
it's in Wakefield. There, it's a nice. It's in a flourishing community. If they stayed there, they might have could push their way, you know.
Yeah.
But the most of their membership is not in North Raleigh. The membership in Southeast.
Yeah.
Down towards so it was a strategic move, but one with vision. Elevation. There was that church your brother belonged to at one time, Elevation.
Yeah, we went to that church a couple times.
And then they moved out there towards Wendell.
Exactly. Further a little bit down the road.
Well, a little bit down the road now, but then it was a long ways down the road.
So you went to Shaw University Divinity School in Raleigh, North Carolina. What was Divinity School like?
Well, we had about 20 students. And the Shaw Divinity School has always been a struggle in terms of whether they're going to relate to Shaw University or whether they're going to be a divinity school that was separated from Shaw University. So they went through that phase, but the fact was, whether they want to get away or not, it has always been a part, spiritually and otherwise, been a part of Shaw University. Shaw University and Shaw Divinity School, for all practical purposes, spiritual and otherwise, are one. Because the teachers that taught at the Divinity School also taught in the college. So that tells the story, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So, in Divinity School, I was reading that many of your professors went to college with Dr. Martin Luther King.
Some did.
Some of them did.
So we didn't have many.
Yeah.
Just a few, very, very few. And one was Dr. Grady Davis.
Yeah.
He and Dr. King went to school named Crozier Theological Seminary.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think he also went to Morehouse, didn't he?
And maybe so, but his Dr. Davis, who are we talking about? David Davis?
Yeah, your teacher, your divinity professor that went to school with Dr. King.
Yeah, that's Dr. Grady Davis.
Mm-hmm.
He went to university, Boston University. They went to grad school together.
Oh, they went to grad school together.
Yeah, that's where he met him.
So, although you never met Dr. King in person, I read that you did get to see him speak twice. What was it like to see him speak in person?
I saw him more than speak.
Yeah.
I was close to Dr. King. That's who we talking about, isn't it?
Martin Luther King, yeah.
Martin Luther King. Well, he was a young man then, and his wife. They were at. We can trace the time down. It was when the first World Fair, to our knowledge, was in New York. The World Fair was in New York. Whether it was in Queens or where, but it was in New York. And I happened to have been there, and he just happened to have been there. And I was as close to him and his wife, or family, as I am to you.
So you actually met him?
I was in his presence. I didn't speak. I think I shook his hand and showed him through the graduation at what's the name of the place where Raleigh Memorial Auditorium?
Yeah.
Right there from Shaw, because Shaw used that.
Yeah.
That
And kind of that downtown Rockport Road area.
yeah, that's right on the end of Favorite. On the end of Favorite Street.
Yeah.
Facing, if you go straight down Favorite Street without turning, you run into Memorial Auditorium. But on the side, see, Shaw was on the side of the Memorial Auditorium. Black schools end up being downtown.
Yeah. Which is where Central and South both are.
Because that was a segregated area, but now, the town has went around those universities.
Yeah.
But when it started, they were on the edge of the cities.
So what sort of effect or impression did Dr. King have on your life?
Well, he was a spiritual figure. Increasingly, I was able to appreciate the work that he did. He died so young. See, you talking about how in the world a man 39 years old going to make an impact on the world? Except Jesus. And Jesus and Dr. Martin Luther King were probably the only two people that I know that. Well, then there was what's the name of the Muslim?
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X. He died young too.
But
it's unfortunate that he got killed because he recognized
who, Martin or Malcolm, or both?
Both, but for different reasons. See, Malcolm was greatly influenced, I believe, by Dr. King's death, because he was a radical Muslim that finally discovered that what his leader taught him was narrow.
Elijah Muhammad.
He didn't break from it. Alan Reagan, but he outgrew his vision of what it meant to be a Muslim. Because he went overseas and found that there were Muslims of all colors. See, before he went over there, his vision of a Muslim was just a black person.
Yeah.
In fact, there's more black now. Are there a lot of white Muslims?
Yeah.
Caucasian?
Yeah, when I was in school, I know some that, or when I go to New York or other places, kind of more populated cities, I do see Muslims of all colors. But yeah, I did learn about Malcolm X in school, and the way I learned about him was post and pre-Mecca, which was when he went to Mecca for the pilgrimage, and where he saw many different Muslims of all colors praying together. Oh
yeah, it made a tremendous. He learned more in 1 minute than he had been taught over the years, and now this comes up to Gwen. Oh no. My daughter thing, you think I'm going on. Evelma. This comes up what Evelma's daughter said when she went to Allen Clayton Powell Church. What's the name of it?
I'm not sure.
Well, after you finish this,
I'm going to look it up.
Allen Clayton Powell Church.
So tell me what it was like the day that Dr. King was assassinated.
Just very quiet. Yeah, you're talking about two events. You should be talking about three. Because all of them somehow or another happened about the same time. One, the assassination of the President Jack Kennedy, assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, and the assassination of Robert Kennedy. See, all of them, so I don't know, historically, the time dates, I can't put it all together.
Yeah, they were very near.
But they were near because I can remember Bobby talking about the assassination of Martin Luther King, and urging people to be quiet and not to riot and all that kind of stuff. But we did, didn't we?
Yeah, in some major urban cities, yes.
But we did.
Yeah.
And that may have been a good thing.
Mm-hmm. How about Malcolm X? How was that one?
I don't know when. I remember when he died. I remember when he was shot. I remember when Kennedy was shot. Jack Kennedy. I was in school when Jack Kennedy. I was teaching when Jack Kennedy. And when we got the news, it was maybe an hour or two before the closure of school day. I can remember that. I remember when Dr. Martin Luther King was shot in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I remember it, but I remember it. And what I remember, it was at night. And I can remember Bobby Kennedy urging the people not to riot and anything like that. But Robert was a much better sympathetic, loving, caring person than his brother was, Jack.
Uh-huh.
Robert was truly a black man. He was truly a friend of oppressed people. Uh-huh. I think regardless of color. I don't know.
So, in terms of speaking of Dr. King, is there anybody else that you would consider to be the most influential person in your life?
Well, I can't really. Well, Dr. King, in terms of a national view, yes, increasingly, I think I may have read a book or two about him and all that kind of stuff. But the more I thought of him, about him, the more I realized the significance of his being. See, he only lived a few years longer than Jesus did. It's not how long you live that determines the impact you make on the world, but when you caught up in the moment, maybe because of the moment, not because you were so great or anything like that. But history make you what you are. Just like it made Jesus what Jesus was. If it hadn't been for the Roman Empire, I don't know whether Christianity would have
turned out the way it did.
That's a good word. Turned out the way that it did. It might have been a small sect somewhere in Africa. Because Christianity is more African than it is European. If you don't believe it, look at the map and you see that white folk took Egypt out of Africa.
Yeah.
Now, how the world they do that?
Colonialism.
They took Egypt out of Africa.
Basically, I know Christianity has a lot of similarities to Egyptian and pagan religions.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
See, people should not put down pagan religion, because all of them points to the ultimate reality of life, which is God in you, in nature. See, not God up in the sky, because if you go up in the sky, you discover that why would God want to be up there where nothing else was? You can't find no heaven up there in the sky. You been up in the plane, you see any heaven up there?
No. It looks heavenly, but I didn't see any heavens. But
I shall look at that. For if the storms are not raging, it's very peaceful, isn't it? When you fly and you look all around you, big floating clouds up there around you, and you're going through them, and your plane may do, but it ain't going do.
Yeah.
It's not like it's going to crash.
Yeah.
First time I went up in a plane, coming back from New York or Boston, we tried to land at the airport in Raleigh, Durham. And I don't know whether the pilot made a mistake, but he was not able to land the plane fully on the airstrip, so he had to go up. we had to go all the way down to Atlanta, Georgia, and then fly back. First trip.
Yeah.
Didn't think anything of it either because it was my first trip. I thought that's the way it always was.
That's how it always was. Mm-hmm. So your first job as a pastor was at, tell me if I'm pronouncing this right, Antioch United?
Yeah, well, let me get it right. The first church I pastored was at Galilee.
Galilee.
As it is in the Bible. And it was, in a way, it was a proper name because it was close to the water. Mm-hmm. It was, Galilee was a good name. But the oldest church in that area was called Broad Creek. Mm-hmm. The folk didn't come up with, Galilee was sort of like a fancy name. The other church, the first church was called Broad Creek because that was the name of the creek, that Broad Creek. Mm-hmm. Like Oak Level was Oak Level because the land was level and there were some oaks there, which basically died. I basically died, and unfortunately, but very fortunate, all things work for the glory of God. The white man who owned the land all the way around the church was a cousin to chairman of the deacon board, and he encouraged him to cut the trees down. Mm-hmm. Good trees and the bad trees. Yeah. Because it was too close to his tobacco field. But out of that, we had to regrade the land and set out new trees. And again, when I was first involved in civil rights struggle down in Warren County is when I set those trees when I was in jail for nearly a month without eating those. Yeah, and I definitely want to touch on that too. But tell me about the first day you gave your first sermon. Were you nervous, or what was that like? I was probably too young, too stupid, or whatever to be nervous. But I reckon it was a sermon that I had heard all my life. That is, God is love. See, if you ever start preaching, don't look for no other sermon except God is love, and you probably won't have success. Because that's the ultimate thing. God so loved the world. I didn't use that. That God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believed in Him would not perish but have life eternal. Earth and heaven, Thy kingdom come on earth. Heaven is potentiality. Earth is reality. Mm-hmm. That's definitely an interesting perspective to look at heaven as being something that earth could potentially be. Heaven is potentiality. Now, don't ask me what's going to happen when you die, because nobody knows. It's all potentiality. Except the Jehovah's Witnesses believe that heaven is going to be here on earth. They may be closer to that reality than we are. Heaven is no space up there in the sky. It got to be here. With the seven, with those planets up there, ain't no place for heaven. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you were at one point pastoring and leading 3 churches at one time. How were you able to manage that? Very easy, because the local people manage the church. See, the pastor want the supreme leader in any church. First of all, the pastor was the counselor. Secondly, the pastor was the glue that helped the church together. The pastor was the spiritual and sacred leader of the community. Mm-hmm. They weren't necessarily the boss. In some of the big churches right now, the pastor are not the boss. You got some of them deacons been there for years. If you want to get kicked out of that church, don't cross that person, because they are the controller of the reality of the church. Because the pastor may be here today and gone tomorrow. But unless God takes away that deacon that's been there for 40 years, he's going to be there for 10 or 15 more. So
I guess
He is a deacon in a black church is about as close. And this is just my own reflection as the Pope is to the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm. So you would say it definitely helped you to manage those churches by having a good group of people under you in the community to help run the day-to-day operations of the church.
A pastor was, in those days, the pastor was a preacher. They were not the control. The lay people were the control. The deacons, the chairman of the board had more real power than the pastor did, because the chairman of the board could if he decided that he didn't like that pastor had to go.
Mm-hmm.
So you always make sure that you form a good relationship with the chairman of the board. Mm-hmm. And deacons don't fight them.
And so you pastored at many different churches, but you ended up basically making Oak Level and Manson, North Carolina, your base church for like the past 56 plus years. What helped you stay so committed to such a task of ministry for so long?
Because that was my calling. That that's what I knew how to do. I taught school. I helped equal, not the top position, but I did for a short while in the Commission for Racial Justice, which was one of those agencies of the United Church of Christ. Most of those agencies have merged, not emerged, but maybe emerged too, into a whole, including Franklin Center. Mm-hmm. Franklin Center is a part of the national church. But the local board, then they just found that out recently, own the center, church doesn't own it, the conference doesn't own it. Mm-hmm. That's an autonomous center. The black folk are I don't use the word ruler because they are the keeper of that center. Mm-hmm. Black people, which was United Church of Christ. No, the United Church of Christ came later, which was the American Missionary Society. The American Missionary Society was part of the United Church of Christ, but they were totally independent. They were part of the national church that long before the United Church of Christ came into being, Congregational Christian Church.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So also, I read a lot that you were very, very keen on having women in your organization in leadership positions at a time where women weren't so much respected in many different platforms and areas of work. Why did you choose?
It just something came natural. I didn't see anything else to do. Mm-hmm. No. As far as deacons, women becoming deacons in the church, they first were trustees, and the transformation of women being on the deacon board was so natural. I don't even know how it came about. I did it so easily, like I can't. Mm-hmm. Say I laid down one night and said, we need some women on the deacon board.
Yeah. Well, personally,
but except Sanctuary had always had a strong women leadership in the church. From the very beginning, they talk about Nancy and Fairy White. Mm-hmm. Nancy, Hill, and Fairy White. And the church was called in the beginning. And Dad never agreed with me on this, but I still said I was correct. And it make more sense now than ever before. That from the very beginning, when Sanctuary was found, it was founded by a man named Ferry and a woman named Nancy. Mm-hmm. And the church was called White Hill. But somebody, now show me where you're going to find a White Hill anywhere. Not around it. But that the name came together. Mm-hmm. But since Sanctuary said on the hill name, it was easy for them to imagine that it was White Hill before it became Sanctuary. And Sanctuary is considered, and we got Sanctuary in this community too, holding the church, United Holy Church. Mm-hmm. And there's a white church up there in Youngsville called St. Stella. So it's not an uncommon name. Very common.
Yeah.
But we didn't know about it. We thought St. Stella was only St. Stella in the world.
So before I kind of touch into your civil rights pursuits, I want to touch on your spirituality, because I'm pretty sure that played a large part in the foundation that was allowed you to do the things you did throughout the civil rights movement. So my first question for spirituality is, what is the importance of spirituality?
Well, spirituality is the unity of all things. God is in all things. You see, God is a part of all things. And God is the very essence of our being. What is man that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man, that Psalm 8, that you visit him. You have made him, the King James Version says, a little lower than angels. But the New English Version says a little lower than God. See, human being and God is all intermingled together. That God is that which make us. God is potentiality becoming reality in our lives. Now, that may be a theological statement, so don't throw it away.
No, I won't.
That might be your thesis when you go to seminary.
So with that being said, I guess in the answer that you gave me, you kind of defined who God is, but what role has God played in your life?
Well, see, what I know about the church is, what I really know about the church is what I was taught by the church as a child at St. Stella. It was a loving, caring community. And while my calling to ministry, and that's significant, when I really knew beyond a doubt that I was called to ministry, it wasn't in the cotton field or tobacco field, it wasn't at the church, but it was at the university, was at A&T College at that time. I don't think there was a black state-supported college was called a university. Was it? No,
I don't believe so. No,
they were colleges.
they were just colleges.
They didn't rise to the level of university. Now, what was I saying?
So, the role that God's played in your life, you would say, is the love.
Has always been there. I looked up in the sky, and I made that reference. You may even hear me make a reference on a day where there must have been a lot of humidity in the air, where you had a coming of clouds. And I saw God up there in those clouds. But I didn't have the vision to see that God was closer to me than those clouds, because God was in me. I didn't see that. That came years and years and years. If you really want to find a clear, modern understanding of theology and what God is, read Paul Tillich, The Courage to Be.
Yeah, I see that you have that book over there on your bookshelf.
Very, very profound, very profound piece of writing. German theologian. So all stuff can come from black folk. Because on the other hand, we don't know whether Paul Tillich was black or not, do we?
No. So you made a reference that God is within man. What about
within all things?
What about the devil?
He is. The devil is on the outside of all things. The devil is just our false imagination of our wanting to be like God. Want to be free of God. That's the deal. Yeah, he's very convenient for us to symbolically separate us from God. So it's called man. See, one of the Psalms said that man was made a little lower than God, but man always wanted to be God. And that's where atheism come in. that man does not want a God.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be the ruler of all things.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense, but it's very stupid. Because the destructive force in the human race, if there was not for the redemption element of the Redeemer, which basically is represented in Mary's baby, and the Word became flesh, as defined in the first book of John. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory. That Jesus, as saw John, saw was as close to God as we will ever see in the flesh. And He said, follow me and I will make you. Don't mean get down on your knees and waddle and crawl, but follow me, believe in me, and you will become more like me.
Yeah, with you saying that, a quote came to my head that I can't exactly remember. I'm gonna have to look it up and share it with you some other time and get your opinion on it on recording for this some other time. I was listening to a documentary of a spiritual teacher. His name's Ram Dass.
Ram Dass is where?
Ram Dass, he kind of has more...
India or what?
No, he's a white man, but he did a lot of his spiritual practice in India and stuff like that. But when I find that quote, I'll share it with you. But one quote I do remember is at a time when I guess I was struggling with my own faith after getting the news about my mother when I was 17. I remember that day you told me that all religions have some of the truth, but no religion has all of the truth. And since that day, it's kind of led me down a path of omnistic views, which is the recognition and respect of all religions, and also a pantheistic view, which is a doctrine that identifies God with the universe, or regards the universe as a manifestation of God, and it is the worship that admits or tolerates all gods. Where did you get that quote from? The quote of
that probably was, I don't remember the quote, so that was probably my own reflection.
That all religions had some of the truth, but none of them had all of the truth.
No, they don't have all the truth. Not supposed to. Religion is not a static revelation. It is a continual revelation. Even though we read from the Bible, the Word becomes flesh in us, and that's the way we treat our neighbors, how we treat our enemies, and how we treat those in the church among us. That's our real challenge every day in every way.
Are you saying that, are you someone that admits or tolerates all religions?
None of us have all the truth, okay. And I think Jesus says, why call me good? There is none good but the Father. Why, he's the essence of the Father, but he said, well, in other words, there is a gap between, once it becomes flesh, there is a holy, sanctified presence between you and that which is the maker and the creator and creators of all things. God still creates now. He ain't finished his work. And we are a part of it. We are a part of it.